InDesign allows you to create a clipping path or silhouette out of something that has an existing background. If I select this frog image, I can choose Object, Clipping Path, and Options. And when I choose Object Clipping Path Options, I'll scoot the window over a bit and turn on Preview. And where it says Type None, I can choose Detect Edges. If there's a built-in Photoshop path or alpha channel, a saved channel in Photoshop, it can also convert those into clipping paths. Or you could even draw your own path. Once you modify the edges of this path, it will say User Modified Path. But when I choose Detect Edges, it's got a threshold value, where the higher you set this, the more colors it's cutting into. This goes from 0 to 255, 255 being cut away everything, 0 being cut away nothing. I'm going to slide it up until it cuts away all the white background, but not inside the shape of the frog. And your tolerance is how carefully it measures the edge. The lower the tolerance, the more points you get, and the more you risk a bumpy edge or path. The higher the tolerance, the fewer points you get, and it might be easier to do some cleanup with fewer points. But I'm fairly happy with this. I just adjust the value until tolerance and threshold gives me the best result. And I could choose to invert the selection, cutting out the inside and leaving only the shape or silhouette of the frog. Or I could include the inside edges, which would pull out the white, kind of a donut effect, which I don't want. I could restrict it to the frame, the container of the image, and I usually always want to pull from the high-resolution image. In fact, when I click OK, I'll choose View, Display Performance, High Quality. And now when I zoom in with Command plus or Control plus, I could see a better edge here. And I could use my direct selection tool, my white arrow, to adjust these points if any little portions of white are still peeking through. I'm not going to be a perfectionist on this one. I am holding down my space bar, which allows me to click and drag and move my screen around. And you could move any one of the points, adjust any one of the handles to cut a little bit into the shape or a little bit out of the shape. Command 0 or Control 0 will fit back in window, and let's take a look at something with a little bit more complex background. On this image, I have a photo, and in that photo, it's not a perfectly solid white background. I'll zoom in with Command plus or Control plus, and before I do my clipping path, I'll choose View, Display Performance, High Quality. And there I get a much better image to work with. Now I'll choose Object, Clipping Path, and Options. And with Preview on, I'll choose Detect Edges, and I'll start dialing threshold up until most of the background is cut away. And there we have it. It's done a pretty great job. I could play with tolerance to get fewer points as I go higher or more points as I go lower. All right, I think I'm fairly happy with that. I'll click OK and zoom in with Command plus or Control plus. Use my space bar to move around, and then I could make some edits to the edges for any little pieces of background that I'm still seeing in the image. I'm adjusting handles. I'm holding down spacebar to click and drag and move my screen around, and pulling this handle in will give me a better edge. I could also use the regular pen tool with the minus to delete points if it made too many and I find them unnecessary. Spacebar to click and drag and move over, and I'll just move a few of these points in until I've clipped away most of that background. A beautiful, easy way to cut your own clipping path or silhouette around an image without having to jump to Photoshop if you have a background that has fairly light colors or even all white. On all white, it just does a gorgeous job of dropping away that image. And I'll let you do the rest of the cleanup on this on your own, and I'll finish up with these last few pieces. And then I'll choose View, Fit Page in Window, click away, go to Preview mode, and now I could see my completed ad. I have a little bit more cleanup work to do here, but I'm happy with the initial result. So try Object, Clipping Path, and Options with images of your own to cut silhouettes around images where you want to drop them in over another background.